is your host and producer of the Many Faces of the Able podcast, as well as the founder of the Abler blog, and everything else related to the Abler. Today's episode is going to be a very special episode because we are launching theme topics, or topic shows, I should say. And the very first theme that I wanted to discuss, that'll also be a topic for the blog itself, is how disability is viewed in other cultures. Now, this will be an opinion piece because the information I found was very limited and was copyrighted. So that's why I wanted to base this off my personal opinion. So if you guys would like to chime in with suggestions or thoughts on this episode, or suggestions for future episodes, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're pretty much everywhere on social media, except for Snapchat. So let's jump right into it. In general, at least in the beginning, disability was seen as a negative thing. In fact, for people like me, back in the day, we were put into institutions, not seen as valid, incapable, basically not part of society or having a substantial spot in the world, essentially. While we have made great strides, and now being decades later into a new decade, 2021, there's still a lot of things that need to be worked and ironed out. We've gotten used to working in a system that is broken in every aspect. The ideas of having studies that even concentrate on the disability and its culture and how people with disabilities are a variety, from intellectual to physical to invisible. Having studies in colleges and shadowings and whatnot, and having it be a conversation in the forefront then versus now is a totally different experience. For instance, in Australia, they look at disability as a way to express yourself creatively versus a negativity. What people don't seem to understand is disability can affect anyone at any time. And unfortunately, until something happens to them that makes them incapable of going about their day-to-day life as usual, per usual, I should say, their lens doesn't become wider. There's still a lot of assumption, misinformation, miscommunication about disability in general. But when we come to the culture part of things, I don't think people understand or get it still. In fact, we're still very restricted. We're only allowed to make only so much money, like $400 to $600 a month. We're lucky to break even if we do have a part-time job. If we make any more than that, we lose our disability, and therefore it's harder for us to get back on it if we need to get back on it. We're denied automatically. We're also denied certain services if we need them to help our independence, like an aid or anything like that, depending on the person and how extensive their disability is. We're often told we're not disabled enough, meaning we have to be a vegetable and incapable of doing anything, from the basic needs to dressing ourselves, brushing our teeth, getting in and out of bed on our own, things like that. And while it is true that there is a big possibility we're being overshadowed due to the recent events of the pandemic, I'm always going to be a forever optimist. I'm hoping that with this pandemic, people will understand what it's like for someone with a disability, or raising someone with a disability, or having to be the core caregiver of someone who needs care 24/7, 365 days a year, 7 days a week. I'm just gonna look at my notes here. See what else I forgot. That's why it's very vital for us to change the narrative. Just because we may need extra assistance than the average person does not mean we shouldn't be seen as an individual that can participate in society. Disability rights line up with human rights, because if we're fighting to keep our roof over our heads, food on the table, marriage equality, medical care, adequate care, medical equipment, our health and well-being, a sound and accessible home, safety. Those are all things we're fighting for too. There has to be no separation anymore. We have to stop drawing the line between a disabled person and a non-disabled person. Because a non-disabled person could very well have a disability, you just don't see it. And that's where we get blurred. Society back then saw us as a nuisance. We weren't thought of as capable human beings that could function and live on our own and live a fulfilled life. We were institutionalized and neglected over us. And while there is still great ignorance on this topic, and there are plenty of people that simply don't understand or simply just rule about it, we know we can't change all that overnight. But we're in 2021 now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And there is always going to be something. We can't be pushed back into the corner in the dark because it's just easier for people. Yet you do take away the remaining services we do have. Transportation, food stamps, our medical assistants, nurses, aides. Equipment doesn't get here in time because the mailing system's off. This doesn't happen because the hours got screwed up and communication isn't flowing properly. While it is true that culture and disability have made great strides, and we are being accepted a lot more and seen a lot more, we're still being ignored a lot more. We're still being dismissed a lot more. We're still being discriminated a lot more. We're still being told no a lot more. There are more ways for us to be put somewhere not thought of than there are more ways for us to be put into the conversation, into society, interwoven. And I'm not just talking about in the work field or in our neighborhoods, but in the population. Disability and culture has so many interwoven topics into it. Our rights as human beings, the right to live a fulfilled life without being told no or being punished or penalized. There are still people today that think, well, you're already getting money for the state, what else do you want? We get roughly around $400 to $600 a month, and we're only supposed to spend it on basic needs. And with the prices of groceries going up, with the prices of rent growing up, even with all the special discounts and whatever you want to call them, it only gets us so far. Disability in how it's seen in culture needs a major overhaul. It does not need to be a political campaign issue. What it needs to be is a person issue, a humanity issue. And yes, politics plays a great deal. Politics plays a great deal in anything and everything. But at the end of the day, whether you're Republican or Democrat or Independent, we're all people. And our compassion, our common sense have to work together. The guidelines in the system need to be looked at carefully. The laws need to be looked at carefully. Yes, we have the ADA. Great, fantastic. But there are still plenty of people now in 2021 ignoring that law. Or just abiding by that law just to pass state regulation and stick a handicap symbol on it. We're more concerned about what that handicap symbol looks like than what it stands for. And we spent millions of dollars redesigning it. We could have put that money in housing, in food, in transportation and medical care, in educational and employment options for those that are limited in some way or another. But we're more concerned as a society of what the disability handicap symbol looks like and how it should be represented on every parking meter in the world. Why are we more concerned about the people that are abusing it and using it when they don't have a legitimate reason to or have a legitimate condition to, and just pop in to go to the grocery store, pick up some milk, and leave the disabled person in the car? Or use it for convenience and say, well, it's free. We don't have any problem with that. We don't have any problem that people on disability have to work so many hours, but then those hours get cut so they can't make them up, eventually lose their job, and eventually lose their assistance, and would have to reapply all over again and get denied all over again and do that continuously. Even when they have all the paperwork in order, even when they have seen all the doctors, made all the appointments, done everything by the book, and we're still not getting the assistance we need. Culture is still not connecting the dots when it comes to disability. For all the great strides we've taken in the decades to get where we are, from the Disabilities Act, from discrimination against people with disabilities in the workforce or in school, their right to transportation to get to and from school, their right to be integrated into regular classes versus special ed classes. All that gets pushed aside when somebody says that it has to make the decisions that rely on our lives and says we're not disabled enough. So that automatically means we're working backwards again. And that's still being said to us in 2021. Really? And yes, we can write our congressmen and our senates and whatnot. And we can have a blitz on the local news station for like 5 to 10 seconds of airtime. But until it happens to someone really close, why does it have to be that way? Why does it have to be when somebody gets affected by it personally, a drop in the bucket, so to speak, that bucket gets to be their mission, and then they start carrying it on their back? Where's the common sense in all what we have in front of us now? What is your definition of not disabled enough? What is your definition of acceptable? What is your definition of right versus human rights and disability rights, and what we deserve and what we're owed, and what should be ours too? Should we have the right to be married without being penalized and literally called a crime? Should we be able to make money and earn tenure depending on our position without it being penalized and losing that extra support? Isn't it bad enough you have people in their 80s, 90s, and above still paying taxes? Isn't it bad enough that nursing homes and independent living centers are working under the subpar bar because they don't have enough resources and people aren't allowed to communicate? And now is the perfect time because of a pandemic, and it all gets pushed to the top. We were having these issues before a pandemic, and it just gotten worse. Culture needs to open its eyes instead of being feared. You're opening their eyes to fear and ignorance and miscommunication and knowledge and education. We need to have a conversation, and we need to involve those that it's affected by, and people with disabilities, visible or not, intellectual or not, learning disabilities, physical, mental health issues, eating disorders, whatever you consider to fall under that category. When it comes to culture, we don't recognize it. We don't acknowledge it long enough to be a hashtag. That's how long we have our attention span on this. It's a culture for people that don't live it, and it's a lifestyle for people that do. And that is a big difference. So I want to ask you, anyone who's listening to this episode or my past episodes, and I've ever asked a question, this is probably one of the most important questions I will ever ask. What is your opinion about disability culture? How do you see us integrated into society every day versus someone who may have an invisible disability and you not even know it? How do you think we can make more progress on this topic? What are your misconceptions about disability and culture, or disability in general? Involve us in the conversation, and I guarantee you will come up with answers you didn't even think about. That is how I'm going to end today's first episode and topic show of 2021, Disability and Culture, guys. Again, it's an opinion piece, and you can check out this episode within the blog itself too when it goes live. I will post the link and my show notes within the blog post, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks with a brand new episode. I'm not too sure if it's going to be another theme show, but it'll be a show I can guarantee you that will have you guys' interest. Thank you guys so much for your support. The YouTube video will come up right after I record this and get it ready to go. And I will schedule the blog post for this topic for March 1st of 2021. Have a great week, guys. I will see you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.